What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video right here on Smack. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking it, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button that's just down here. And obviously, if you have an opinion, please share it with us in the comment section below. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Shannon Knapp, President and CEO of the leading hotels of the world. Welcome to Smack.
Hello, Smack listeners, and welcome to a new episode of your favorite podcast, which is also my first one this season, and I'm starting with a bang. I got the chance to talk to Shannon Knapp, President and CEO of Leading Hotels of the World, a global alliance of independent luxury hotels. We talked about how hotels become part of leading, what our transition from CMO to CEO was like, and about the importance of mentoring in her career. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Well, welcome to you. I'm excited to have you here on the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
And I think I need to just tell you this little story, actually, because I'm so excited to have you here. This is kind of coming full circle for me because I started my career at the Dolder Grand in Zurich, which is a leading hotels of the world property.
Absolutely fantastic. That's great. What a tremendous property.
Yeah. And I just remember when I was working at the front desk, I remember clearly like all the things that we had to say to the members and how much we were prepped to like actually say everything according to standard. And it was so funny because I had no idea what the leading hotels of the world like were at this point. But so you being here as one of my guests is really coming full circle for me. So thank you.
That's amazing. I love that.
Have you been to the one in Zurich?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful hotel. One of our gems in the portfolio for sure. It's fantastic. I mean, Zurich's a great city too.
I'm very biased. For me, it's obviously the best hotel. It's in Zurich, if not in Switzerland, because it's just like very emotional for me. But yeah, so I just wanted to tell you that before we get right in. But maybe also I when I prep these calls, you know, I'd like to also start with a quick one or like an easy one to get us starting. So one thing when I read through your bio and everything, I was just wondering because, you know, I'm still at the beginning of my career. And if you think back now when you were starting out, if you're maybe like when you were in your 20s, would you, when you now look back, have thought that you could be a CEO at your age now or maybe even ever?
The short answer is no. Honestly, my entire career has really been in the marketing function. And I honestly believe that I would continue to grow and progress in my career as a CMO. But it's important always to be open to new opportunities and experiences. And I never, from my early days, I never really charted too narrow of a course for my career. I don't believe that success always follows a linear path, and I believe it's really important to get diversified experience. And so this was one of those cases where, you know, my varied experiences kind of helped me refine what I wanted to do with my career. And, you know, if you look at every challenge that you face or every opportunity that comes to you as an opportunity to learn, that I think is the most important. And certainly in this case, going from CMO to CEO was not something that was on my career path at all, but I am super thrilled that I have the opportunity because it's like nothing I've ever experienced before, and I love it.
It is crazy though, right? When you look back, you kind of see, you know, the little bricks and steps that all like led up to your life now, but in the moment, you probably think like, where is this going? I have no idea.
Exactly. And I think, you know, one of the most important things is to have mentors and people to look to help you navigate, because to your point, I think life, whether it's professional or personal, is all about sliding doors and the decisions you make and the paths that you end up on and how are you making the most of those. And I think having trusted mentors and friends who can help you choose the right path is super important. But I think part of the fun of both professional life and personal life is, you know, embracing the door you've chosen and finding the best path for you and knowing that not everything is permanent, you know, that's the best part.
And have you had mentors like this throughout your entire life, or is this something that only like at some point started?
I think if I looked back on my life, there have always been people who have helped provide me with guidance and helped me make the right decisions. But professionally, I would say yes. I had, especially during my time at American Express, I had several leaders and mentors who were instrumental in helping me define what it was I wanted to do, and then helped me grow and develop along that path. And who knows? Maybe I would have been here without that, but I don't suspect I would have, because one of my greatest mentors really pushed me to define what it was I wanted to do with my career. I had been at American Express for many, many years, and when we had career discussions, it was always about what my next role at American Express was going to be. And I had a leader who said, hold on a second, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And it really kind of disrupted me and forced me to think about, not just my next job at Amex, but really, where did I want to be in my life? And so she helped me articulate my career vision, and then helped put me on a path for acquiring those skills that I needed. The career vision that I articulated was that I wanted to be the chief marketing officer of a small to mid-sized travel or sports company. And so she helped me define that. She helped me figure out the skills that I needed to do that, and help set me on my path.
Because she saw you as a person and not just as also an employee. So I think that's one of the biggest assets that a leader can have.
Exactly.
Because I think that sometimes gets forgotten. It's just human. I don't think that people mean that in a bad way, but I think it's very easy to see a person within the structure of an existing company and not as a, let's call it, private person on their journey.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing that you had this, because I think mentoring, I've never seen it as such an important thing, both career or private life, until a few years ago. And now I'm in a position where I would have never been without one of my mentors. So I think it is like everyone at some point realizes, wow, other people are just super important on your path. And I hope at some point I can also be a mentor to someone else, because that's really just what it is. We're all in this together.
Exactly. And I think it takes a level of investment as a person, as a leader, or as a colleague, to invest that time in mentoring somebody. And that's why I sometimes think mentoring doesn't work, or when it's forced or put together in kind of an inauthentic way. Either the mentee doesn't really understand what they want to get out of the experience, or the mentor isn't taking the time to invest and really think about the person as a person. And so I agree with you. I mean, I think there are really special people in my life who invested in me, and I will be forever grateful for that. And I hope that I can repay it. I hope that I pay it forward every day. That's what I think the best thing that I can do is to repay it.
But then it comes natural, right? So I think if you have experienced this in your life, then you also want to pass it on. Whereas when it's a structure, like when it's a system that is basically just put forward from a company, it sometimes feels a bit forced, like you were saying. And then it becomes unauthentic, and then people don't live it. And it's, on the other hand, I do think programs like these need to also exist because they show that mentoring in itself exists. So it's a back and forth that I have with these programs. But overall, I think mentoring, if anyone's lucky enough to find a mentor that just you click with, it's one of the greatest gifts.
I completely agree.
And so we were just talking about how you were CMO before you became CEO. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you hear this a lot, like this step from CMO to CEO, or at least in my to my knowledge, like when I read articles, it's often the COO or like the CFO or something. I don't know, but how was that for you? Like, was this like a natural progression from CMO to CEO, or
Yeah, I mean, I think you're starting to see more and more CMOs rising to the CEO position. I think the role of marketing has really changed significantly over the last 10, 15 years. It's increasingly data-driven, technology-focused. It's the voice of the customer in enterprises or companies. It's no longer just perceived as a cost center, but really the center of strategy in many ways, in many organizations around the world. So, as a source of innovation, because they're so close to the guest, as a source of business strategies, because they understand the needs of the guest in developing new products and services, it's becoming, I think, more of a norm, certainly not as much as CFO, COO, and it also depends on the nature of the company.
Of course.
At Leading, of course, we're a sales and marketing company, so it is a little bit of a more natural progression, I think, from CMO to CEO here at Leading, especially in the evolution that we're going through. So it's maybe not the norm, but I see it increasingly happening more consistently, I would say, across, if I look across industries, which I'm thrilled about, because I believe very strongly in the role of the CMO in driving innovation and business strategy, and I did a lot of that at Leading, and that I think helped position me for the role.
I think it's important what you just said, that it used to be perceived, or still is in some company, as a pure cost center, and not given credit for the strategic role that it has, especially, of course, like we were saying, it depends what the company does and what their main product is. But yeah, super interesting. But you were CMO for around 6 years.
That's right.
And that's a long time. What do you see as your kind of legacy, or what were those 6 years like?
Oh, it was a tremendous time, because I was brought in to really take the marketing organization into the new era of moving from kind of a cost center to a profit center, or being that center of expertise related to data, technology, customer insights. So it was a great opportunity for me to come in and restructure the organization, invest in building out the data and technology infrastructure so we could understand our guests and Leaders Club members better, so that we could create more relevant marketing to drive better response to support the revenue goals of our members. So for me, I think the thing that I'm most proud of as I look back at my time at Leading as the CMO for 6 years was the transformation of the marketing organization to really being data-driven, technology-driven, and customer-centric. And I think that really laid the groundwork for the success that we're seeing today.
And did you get any pushback of like changing to a super data-driven approach?
Not really. I mean, I think the important part was not to lose the essence of the brand, which is very, very important to our hotel members, to our guests. Certainly, so it was important to not become purely a direct response kind of marketing organization, but to make sure that we continue to invest in the premium brand that we have, but also ensure that we are delivering on our commitment to our hotel members, which is to help increase their business. And you do that by, telling the stories of their business, being understanding the needs of your guests, making sure that you're creating relevant content and working with them throughout the customer journey to get them to the right hotel. So certainly there was no pushback. And I think certainly, as I mentioned, the hotels were grateful for the increase in new guests and revenue, and the satisfaction of the guests in terms of arriving at the correct hotel for them, because we are a collection of 400 independent hotels, very, very different. Some, as the older you know quite well, but certainly we have tented camps in Nyara. We have resorts all over the world, city hotels, modern, palace. They're all very, very distinct. So being sure to tell the stories of those hotels and making sure you're matching the right guest with the right hotel.
Yeah. To really make sure that this match actually happens in the mind of the guest as well when they arrive. Like, oh, this is exactly what I pictured, what I wanted, what I didn't even know I wanted. So yeah, exactly. It is a big role that you guys have, a lot of power as well. But so what would you say, or what for you is maybe the most important point that a property needs to fulfill to become actually a leading hotel of the world? I mean, of course there are standards and
yeah, of course, the standards well. You were trained on them quite well, I'm sure. But we actually have quite a process, because we are very importantly the only truly 5-star collection brand. So all of our hotels really have to clear a bar of quality. That's the most important hurdle that needs to be cleared in terms of membership. But we also, because we are an independent collection of over 400 hotels around the world, we really look at who the owners of the hotels are. We're 80% plus family led. Our hotels are 80% plus family led. 90% plus independent. So we're really looking at who the owners are, what level of independence do they have. Obviously, quality is number one, but really the other thing is what kind of stories do they have to tell? Are they remarkably uncommon, right? Where is the hotel located? Do they have some story of their history or architecture or extraordinary food and beverage concepts? What is it about that independent luxury hotel that makes it truly remarkably uncommon? And we seek out those stories and we seek out those distinctions because we believe that is really what our guests expect and love about leaving hotels.
And I can imagine you have to be very thorough during the whole process and really test them to their core. So I'm sure there's some blind visits involved in the process where you are trying to really test them how they react to certain also situations and everything. So
yeah, what's interesting though is that a lot of the hotels that come to us are recommended. They're either a part of referrals from current members, so owners who are building another hotel or bought another hotel, so they bring their new hotel to us for membership consideration, which is great because we know the hotelier, we know the experience that we have with the other hotel, and that really helps us have confidence with whom we're working, right? So I think that is a major, which is why the people are such an important part of our business. We focus on remarkable quality, remarkable individuals, and truly uncommon experiences, and that's, I think, a credit to leading when an existing owner brings a new hotel to us because they trust us and they see the value that we can deliver for them.
And you also know that they know who they are dealing with. So you know that they already are aware of what they need to fulfill, and so it's actually great for both parties.
Exactly.
And how would you say maybe the type of guest has changed that chooses leading and stays at your properties? Because I'm sure there must have been some changes that you as a company also see.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is fantastic about our guest is they're truly curious, and this is an underlying attribute of our guest. It's a mindset. Travel is who they are. It's not just what they do, and so they're constantly seeking new experiences on their personal journey. And so what we find, I think a lot of brands look at guests or target customers through the lens of, how much money do they make? Where do they live? What demographic do they fit? But we really are looking at an attitude, an attribute of this curious traveler who's looking for something different in every journey to enhance their personal experience. So I think that has remained consistent for many, many years. And I think even more so now that this trend towards, travelers seeking authentic experiences, truly looking for something that is not, whether I wake up in a hotel in London, it's the same as the hotel I wake up in New York, is the same as the hotel as I wake up in Hong Kong. It's not what they're seeking anymore. And so I think even more so post-COVID, this authentic travel trend is something that's very, very strong. I think we've also seen obviously an increase towards an interest in hotels that are good global citizens in terms of sustainability, making sure that they're taking care of their communities and they're like I said, being good citizen for the world. We're seeing a trend again post-COVID of trading up. Many of our consumers are booking suites and villas more so than even in 2019 before the pandemic. So that's a really big shift that we're seeing. And I thought it would kind of dwindle after COVID kind of settled down a bit, but we're seeing that trend stick. So that's really interesting. And wellness. I think wellness, whether it's emotional or physical wellness, I think this has been a big focus for our guest as well coming out of COVID. So there's a consistency, and then there's kind of new trends that have evolved as a result of COVID.
And I think it's very interesting that you say this, because I've had this conversation with many people from the sort of different brands, different companies, that everyone was kind of thinking, okay, this is this kind of revenge travel or revenge spending that we all read about, and this is great, but it's not going to last, and this is going to die down. Like, people are not going to be willing to spend so much more and pay these higher rates that we've seen in 2022. And so I think it's the big question: is this here to stay, or is, like, can we actually count on this, or is this something that is gonna, because now with the new crisis coming up, which hits people's actual household income way more. Like, before with COVID, you were locked in, fair enough, but you were still making enough money and just piling it up for you to be able to actually leave and have a great vacation.
Right.
But now it's a whole different situation that we're seeing, and I think it's going to be very interesting to kind of see, okay, what does next year going to look like? And yeah, it's I think we're just still in the situation where we're looking into a crystal ball and we're like, okay, so we don't know what's going to come and what's going to hit us.
Exactly. No, it's fascinating. I use the term whiplash a lot. I mean, I think we went from the depths of COVID, where the world shut down and 95% of travel was not happening, and that was just what, 2.5 years ago, and now we're in this incredible upswing. We're 105% above last year. We are 15% above 2019. People are traveling more than we've ever seen. Leading's on track to have a record year. But as I look into next year, to your point, we're actually ahead of where we were heading into 2020 before the pandemic. So we're actually 2020, the first quarter of 2020 for the travel business was record, and we are 25% ahead of that. So and to your point about rate, I mean, the rate just continues to climb. And I think it's a little bit of a challenge, because you have the energy crisis affecting the bottom lines of the hotels. You have this pent up demand. You have the labor crisis, which is increasing the amount of money the hotels have to pay to staff, and even at that, they're challenged to find enough labor to staff their whole hotel. So there's a lot of dynamics happening, but it seems that the consumer, the luxury consumer, at least right now, continues to want to travel, is booking more, is paying higher rates, and I think COVID kind of created a dynamic, not only immediately post with the revenge travel, but I think people realized just how important travel was to their wellness, to their families, to creating experiences that were more important than buying things. And so I think that's what we're seeing now. To your point about the crystal ball, who knows? But as of right now, I'm cautiously optimistic that this momentum will continue into 2023.
But I think it's important what you said before. It's they are looking for a certain kind of travel, for authentic experiences, for special moments, and whoever caters to that, and I mean, you are very much catering to this. That you are profiting, because that's across, I mean, of course, luxury travelers, especially because they have the income to also do this. But I think really across all of society, I think this is really what is on top of everyone's mind when they are planning a trip. Like, how can I make this very, very special and unique? And then they are willing to spend money on it. But another question that I had, because you were raising also the point of if the company or the hotel is a good global citizen, have you then also made some changes to how you present hotels, like to include this kind of information, because you were seeing that people are interested in knowing more maybe about what the hotel is doing and
Yes, absolutely. So I think I know you know a lot about Leading, but for your listeners, maybe not. But Leading Hotels of the World is the most exclusive collection of the best independent luxury hotels and hoteliers in the world. But we do not own or operate our hotels, so it's not as easy for us to simply mandate something in brand standards, and that kind of pushes down to all the hotels. They are truly independent. We are here to empower their success, and part of that is creating platforms and solutions to help them stand out in their market, to help them be the best for the guest who's seeking the independent hotels. So we have created a lot of platforms. For example, during COVID, we created the Healthy Stays platform to help them raise their hygiene standards and make sure they were creating a safe environment for guests, and guests could have confidence that they would have a safe stay. And we're taking a similar approach with sustainability. So we're developing a sustainable collection to help recognize member hotels who have demonstrated a commitment to make it easier for our travelers who are searching for hotels that align with their values and beliefs in sustainability. But I will say that responsible travel has been something that's been very deeply ingrained in the DNA of leading for our 94 years. We have hotels that have been a part of their communities since those communities came to be, and so they have deep connections to the culture, to the people, and so I think it's something that for us is very a part of the values of the company, and very much so part of the values of the hotels. And what we want to do is help create a platform to both showcase that to the guests, so they understand which hotels are really demonstrating that commitment, but also to help our members be better about sustainability. So helping create programs that enable them to measure their energy consumption and create standards to help some of the basic stuff around removing single-use plastics and that kind of thing. So we try to do our best to provide the platform for them and also provide guidance to help them improve what they're doing on property from an operations perspective as well.
And I think that's important, right? Like you need to give them maybe the tools for them to even see, okay, how can we approach this? How can we measure this and track it? And I think that's something that they just cannot count on from a bigger chain, or like because they are independent and they are often family run, and that is kind of your big role that you're playing for them, and where you're helping both them and then also your guests to really acquire the knowledge about what they are actually doing every day, because they maybe don't even think it's special. They just have been doing this for years and years and years, and actually they are at the forefront of the industry.
That's right. That's exactly right. Sometimes they don't even realize that what they've done already is industry leading, or we're very proud of telling their stories and helping them get that out there. But to your point, sometimes we need to kind of pull it out of them to say, hey, you don't realize, but what you're doing is extremely important and very special, and let us help you tell that story.
And I want to also ask you a bit more about your current role now. So of course, from CMO to CEO, maybe just to start off, what does it mean to you that you're the first female CEO of Leading?
Well, it's obviously an incredible privilege to have the opportunity to steward this 94-year-old iconic hospitality brand. I'm very proud of that. But historically, there have been generations of intrepid females who have paved the way for extraordinary women in hospitality at Leading. For example, the company's first president was a woman, Edith Turner, in 1950. So the first president, and the second president was also a woman. Wow. Mary Homey, right? So you can see they in their space, in their time, were these intrepid female leaders, and they cultivated this extraordinary collection of exclusive independent luxury hotels, but they were creating a more inclusive business at a time where that was not at all an easy thing to do, and they encouraged future generations of female hoteliers. So I'm very proud to be a part of that lineage. And during my time as CEO, we have reached gender parity for the very first time in our workforce, but more importantly, on our leadership team. We have a 50-50 split between men and women on the executive team, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's very, very hard, because when a lot of companies talk about, like we're actually 50-50 or even, a bit more women than men, but then you always have to ask the question, okay, but on what levels? Because yes, exactly. The board of, or like the executive board is usually, there's a whole other split going on there. So yeah,
exactly.
No. I think it's an important thing to point out, but that's very interesting. I had no idea that the first presidents were women, in a time where definitely, I mean, we are facing some challenges today still, but this is nothing compared to the 1950s.
Exactly.
So yeah, wow. And when you were changing from CMO to CEO, I read somewhere that you were an interim CEO for a couple of months. Yep. So maybe you can, because obviously me and also probably most of our listeners are not CEOs. So maybe you can just tell us a bit how that transition was for you, and what actually goes into, preparing someone to step into a completely different role.
Absolutely. I think what was great about my transition was, as I mentioned earlier, I was the CMO, and I had kind of driven this transformation of the marketing business and the brand. And I worked very, very closely with our CEO, my predecessor, Ted Tang, on a lot of the strategic initiatives for the company. So I was very closely involved with and/or leading, no pun intended, some of those initiatives. So I had a lot of exposure. I'd worked very closely with Ted. So given that collaboration, it wasn't truly I don't know, a large step. It was a little bit easier to do. I knew all of the executive team. I was a member of the executive team, so I knew my colleagues very well. We worked very well together collaboratively. So I think the combination of having driven the transformation of the marketing organization, which quite frankly had a big impact on leading as a company, and being involved in several of the strategic initiatives that we were working on together to drive the transformation of the rest of the business, it wasn't like I felt like I was being thrown into the deep end. So it was almost a natural transition in a way. But of course, it's different. It's different because I went from being colleagues with my executive team to now being, their leader. I think having worked at the organization for 6 years, one of the biggest things you always have to look at is, am I too comfortable in my understanding of the business the drivers, the people, the hotels? So I think challenging myself to take a fresh look at the business and really understand where the areas of opportunity were. It was something I was very conscious of and wanted to make sure that I was doing in that transition. And I think the biggest and most important thing that I did very early on, before the pandemic struck, was I spent a lot of time with my members, the hotel members, really understanding their needs and how they were changing, and how we as leading could expand the value that we deliver to them to help them succeed in this increasingly complex hospitality industry.
So going to the roots of the business actually before, yeah.
Exactly.
And I think it's very hard. That's the big question, right? What it always poses itself. Do you bring in someone new because they have a new, fresh perspective on the business, but then again they might be perceived as an outsider by many that are already in the company? Or do you choose to actually empower someone within the company, but then, like you said, you might be too comfortable and you might not question certain things? So I think it's always a tough one to probably decide which way you're going to go. And best case scenario obviously is if the person then has the mindset of trying to step back and really re-entering the company in this new position, and kind of bringing in a new mindset of how to look at things. But so it was probably, I mean, the company culture kind of decides if it's easy for someone to change from a colleague within the executive board to then being their leader, or if that also is sometimes met with mixed feelings. But I hope, or I assume, that this was rather an easy transition for you, hopefully.
Yes, I mean, you might want to ask my team how they feel about it, but no, I think it was an easy transition, and I think we had worked together so collaboratively and so collegially that and that's a culture as a leader that I like to cultivate. I really prefer collaboration. I love diverse perspectives. I think it's the combination of diverse perspectives that leads to really strong business strategies. So we kind of just carried that forward into my new position. Our working relationship didn't really change all that much because we had been working together so closely, and that's the type of culture that I like to cultivate. So
that's beautiful. I agree with that leadership approach, but it's one of many, and some people also cannot thrive in that environment because they're just not used to it. Because it's still, unfortunately, quite a new or a special approach. Great. So I think one of a very, very hard question for the end. Where do you see leading in the next 10 years? Like, what do you see as the biggest challenges, but maybe also the biggest opportunities that you are going to focus on in the near to midterm future?
I think the independent luxury hospitality segment is vital to the overall hospitality business. And so leading's role to empower the success of these independent hotels so that they can continue to make the choice to stay independent will absolutely continue to be our North Star. But the business has changed so much over the last 20 years, and certainly coming out of COVID, there's a whole new host of challenges. And you referenced earlier, we're facing record inflation. There's a war in Ukraine. We have still the pandemic is not over, so you have all of these layers of complexity on top of what was already a pretty complex
labor
business.
shortage.
The labor shortage, exactly. So there's certainly a lot of obstacles ahead, but I believe very much so in the importance of this segment. And so where do I see leading in 10 years? So I see us continuing to do what we do today, which is to drive value and revenue to our member hotels to empower their financial success, but also expanding the value that we deliver to them beyond simple revenue to help them run their businesses more efficiently, more productively, to help position them in their markets as top quality, drive top ADR. So really, we're expanding the value that we deliver to our members. We're not a unit growth company, so we're not like your publicly traded hospitality companies. So we're very much focused on growing the portfolio with the right type of hotels and the right people who want to be a part of this collaborative community. So we will continue to focus on finding those special hotels throughout the world, but we're very focused on growing our portfolio in the U.S. We have quite a bit of opportunity in the U.S. Certainly in Asia, when it fully opens up again, we will be back there trying to expand our footprint in Asia, specifically in China. South America is another area where I think we have quite a bit of opportunity. So trying to expand the footprint of leading a bit to ensure that we're capturing the unmet demand of our travelers who live in those markets. So of course they come and stay with us. About 2/3 of our portfolio is in Europe. So they know us for long haul. The U.S. traveler to Europe is the bread and butter of our business, but they travel about 70% of the time in the U.S. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity to capture that domestic
100%.
travel as well. So that's a big area of focus for us. And I just think that as we move forward in this world where I think this demand by the guests for truly authentic experiences that enrich their lives, I think we have a tremendous opportunity to capture a larger share of the luxury traveler market, because we offer very uniquely what these travelers are seeking. We have this unabated growth and demand for authentic and tailored experiences are exactly what independent hotels are uniquely positioned to deliver, right? We have generations of owners at our hotels who are part of the fabric of the destination in which they are. And so these hoteliers, these owners, have relationships with the artisans and the restaurants and the unique experiences in their destination. And their staff, by the way, has lived in that destination for generations. So they have these relationships, and they can really curate these extraordinary experiences for travelers, which is exactly what they're seeking right now. So I think it's a great, I think that the future is very bright for independent hospitality because of the alignment with what consumers and travelers are seeking. And I think, and perhaps I'm biased, but I think leading is truly very, very well positioned because of the family ownership. The families like the Schertzes in Stade and the Gertlers in Vienna. We have the Fiorentinos in Sorrento. I mean, we have generations of family owners who are just extraordinary at delivering hospitality at a level that is unmatched.
Yeah, I think you are indeed perfectly set up for the current market atmosphere, and especially also because now there's probably even a new share of your customers that is now willing to spend that extra money, that is now even only learning about you maybe, because they are now looking at a completely different kind of way to travel.
That's
so
right.
I would agree the future looks bright. One quick, very small question for the end. I always end my or I try to end my podcast episodes with this. If you were to give yourself as a young graduate or just beginning of your career one tip, what would it be?
I think specifically for women, I would encourage us to be confident in our abilities. Believe in yourself, pursue the roles where you can bring your unique skills and experience that also offer you an opportunity to grow and develop. Have confidence in your ability to learn and grow within a job. Take a risk. Remember, if you were already able to do 100% of the job that you're seeking, and you're not learning, it's not going to help you in your long-term development and success. So for me, I think this is the one bit of advice that I give to everybody, but certainly young women. Be confident, take that risk, don't limit yourself.
Amen to that. I have nothing to add. Thank you so much, Shannon. It was a pleasure having you, and all the best. And hopefully I see you soon at the Dolder or some other property of yours.
I hope so. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was wonderful.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this episode and everything else that is going on at Smack with us by checking out our website at smack.media or connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you want more from Smack, you can find it right here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is entirely free, by the way. So I have no idea why you haven't done that yet. Our social media channels are in the section below if you want to stay in touch. We'll see you next time.